A guy we've had on the show previously. You've seen him in the evenings. Navin Bapat, Dow Professor of Peace and War and Political Science at UNC Chapel Hill, is here. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
For the folks at home who are just now tuning in, seeing the headlines, can you put into context what is playing out right now in Qatar?
Sure. So it appears that there has been, or it's been confirmed that there is a retaliatory strike against the Al Udeid base, which is housing CENTCOM in Qatar. So that again, what's likely happening is that this is Iran's response to the attack by the United States with the B-2s that were intended to destroy the deep nuclear facilities that happened over the last several hours. So it was, the three of those installations were attacked within Iran's territory. So this is a retaliation for that. And one thing that we can say about this is that it looks limited based on these reports. It doesn't look like Iran showered tons of targets or that this wasn't in some way. It was an attack that could be managed, I think, by the United States. So it remains to be seen what happens after that.
Yeah, according to NBC News, President Trump is in the Situation Room right now evaluating what to do next. And I guess the question that's on a lot of folks' mind, I've got a couple of text messages in the last few minutes about it, but, what are the risks of further escalation between the U.S., Israel, Iran?
Well, the attack by the United States on Iran, I think, started a path, right? And that path can start to escalate through these series of steps to something larger. Now, I will say that the U.S. strike seemed limited. It attacked key facilities, but it seemed limited. And I would say that based on these reports, it appears that Iran's response is also limited. So it's possible that given that both sides seem to be trying to restrain themselves from all-out war, that we can possibly get to a solution that won't take us down that long road that gets us into a very difficult war that the United States would face if we're facing this sort of big conventional conflict with Iran.
And just to add to that, is there a pathway? I know you sort of alluded to it. Is there a pathway towards diplomacy because these attacks or this most recent attack was limited?
So I think so. I think just in any conflict that we look at, there's a lot of possibilities to get to peace. Oftentimes we're limited by our creativity, but there's a lot of different ways for countries to de-escalate these things. Again, if we assume that conflict is very costly to all sides, if we assume costly a conflict and entails these risks to both sides, there should be reasons for them to want to pull out of it. So, and I think in this case, neither the United States nor Iran really wants to get into a deep conflict here, right? I don't think anyone, the United States and the Trump administration has promised an end to large foreign involvement in the Middle East and large conflicts in the Middle East. Iran, for its part, has been significantly damaged over the last several months, so it's probably not wanting a large conflict with the United States at this time. So the limitation of Iran's response suggests that there is a pathway that they want to take that can de-escalate things between at least the United States and Iran. Israel is a different question.
I know the Trump administration, specifically President Trump, has mentioned a regime change in Iran, but with that, would a conflict be avoidable if a regime change is what the Trump administration wants?
Well, if a regime change is actually what the Trump administration wants, Iran won't but is very unlikely to peacefully just step down as a government and allow for a new government to take place. That's a real maximalist demand. And so prior to that, over these last few months, what the Trump administration has been asking for is some limitation on the nuclear program, not a full regime change. So I think what Iran will likely do is try to go towards that objective versus full regime change, unless it really is the case now that the Trump administration's preferences have just changed and now they prefer to topple the Iranian regime. If that is the case, then Iran has no reason to negotiate. They're not going to negotiate their own demise.
I think a lot of folks here at home are scared. They want to know what's next. What does this mean for folks here as far as this, I guess, this tit for tat right now with the U.S. and Iran?
So I think the thing to be concerned about is what happens in the region, not necessarily what happens here in North Carolina. So again, to put it in some context, one possibility is that given that Iran is facing these strikes, it might try to engage in some aspects of transnational terrorism. It's done that in the past. So possibly there might be targets here in the United States. But I want to emphasize that if we look at the data and we look at terrorism, basically since the late 1960s to now, most terrorist attacks do not tend to be successful. Most terrorist attacks don't tend to harm that many people. And there are some exceptions to that. Of course, 9/11 and October 7th being two exceptions to that. But in most cases, terrorism is not really something that will affect most Americans to a great extent. Again, the likelihood of being harmed by terrorism is lower than the likelihood of being in a traffic accident. And I don't say that to be facetious. I'm just, again, comparing risks. It's not something to be so concerned about. But that's not to say that in the region, it's not possible for Iran to start attacking U.S. assets there. And several of those are homes to Americans that are serving abroad. So there is risk involved. I don't want to downplay that. But the risk to the U.S., the United States itself, is probably fairly low.
It's Navin Bapat, Dow Professor of Peace and War and Political Science at UNC. Thank you so much for your time. I know we asked you to come on the show last minute, but there are a lot of questions. Again, thank you for putting this all into context for us.
Thank you.
All right, we continuing to follow that developing situation there in Qatar as far as those strikes there on the military base there in Qatar. And as soon as we learn more information, we want to bring it to you here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Because as soon as we saw those reports, and I just want to pull back the curtain for a second, as soon as we saw those reports, within a minute maybe, we came on here and provided you those updates, sent you straight to that NBC special report, because this is a situation that has developed. It seems like each hour we get new information. So yes, again, as soon as we get more information, I know this sounds redundant, but I just want to promise you that we will update you here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.